Sarah's hands trembled as she clutched the delivery bag, rainwater dripping from her soaked jacket onto the pristine marble floor of Walker Tech. The lobby's crystal chandeliers cast elegant shadows that made her feel even more out of place in her worn sneakers and faded hoodie. "Just drop it off and leave," she whispered to herself, scanning the directory for the 48th floor. Executive wing. Ethan Walker. She didn't care who he was, only that this delivery would pay her electric bill. "Sarah," the voice behind her turned, her blood to ice. She spun around to find Ryan leaning against a marble pillar, his familiar smirk making her stomach clench. "Fancy meeting you here," he said, pushing off the wall with that predatory grace she once found charming. "Delivering food now? How far you fallen?" Her heart hammered against her ribs. "Stay away from me. Come on, babe. We need to talk. You can't avoid me forever." His voice carried that dangerous edge she knew too well. Sarah backed toward the elevators, but Ryan matched her step for step. The security guard was nowhere in sight, and the receptionist seemed absorbed in her phone call. Then she saw him. A man in an expensive navy suit stood near the elevator bank, scrolling through his phone with the quiet authority of someone who owned the world around him. Desperation overrode dignity. Sarah ran to him and dropped to her knees, wrapping her arms around his leg like a lifeline. "Please," she whispered, looking up at his startled face. "Just pretend you know me." The man's steel-blue eyes took in her terrified expression, then shifted to Ryan, approaching with clenched fists. "Is there a problem here?" The stranger's voice cut through the tension like a blade. Ryan hesitated. "She's my girlfriend. This doesn't concern you." "She's with me," the man said with quiet finality, "and I suggest you leave before I call security." Ryan's face darkened, but something in the stranger's calm certainty made him step back. "This isn't over," he muttered before storming. Out Sarah remained on her knees, shaking. The man looked down at her with an unreadable expression. "You can get up now," he said gently. "He's gone." She scrambled to her feet, mortified. "I'm so sorry. I panicked. I'm just here to deliver lunch to someone named Ethan Walker." His eyebrow arched slightly. "You're looking at him?" Sarah stared at Ethan Walker, heat flooding her cheeks. She had just literally thrown herself at the feet of a CEO. The CEO whose lunch she was supposed to deliver. "Oh God," she breathed. "I'll just leave your food at the front desk and disappear forever." "Wait." His voice stopped her retreat. "I could have walked away when you asked for help, but I didn't. Ever wonder why?" Sarah turned slowly, clutching the thermal bag like armor. "Because you're a decent person?" Ethan smiled, transforming. His sharp features. "No one's ever accused me of that in business." He studied her with those penetrating eyes. "You survived something that would have broken most people, and you still had the courage to ask for help. That tells me more than any resume." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a sleek business card. "I'm looking for a temporary assistant, someone who can handle chaos and think fast under pressure. Interested?" Sarah's mouth fell open. "You want to hire me?" "I just hid under your suit like a scared child. Protected yourself when cornered. That's survival instinct." His expression grew serious. "The position is temporary. Maybe 6 weeks. High pressure, demanding hours. But it pays well, and you'd learn more about business in a month than most people learn in years." She looked at the card as if it might burst into flames. "Why would you trust me?" "Because when everyone else in this lobby looked away, you looked for help. And when I offered it, you didn't make excuses or apologies for needing it." He paused. "That's rare." Sarah's mind raced. The pay he mentioned would solve her immediate problems and buy her time to figure out her next move. But working for someone like him, in a world like this, terrified her almost as much as Ryan did. "I don't have experience in corporate anything," she said. "Experience can be taught. Character can't." His phone buzzed, and he glanced at it with a slight frown. "I need an answer now. My last assistant quit mid-crisis, and I have a board meeting in 10 minutes. Sarah looked around the gleaming lobby, then back at his steady gaze. Every rational part of her screamed that this was insane. but a smaller, braver voice whispered that this might be her chance to become someone new. Okay, she said before. She could change her mind. Ethan's smile was quick and genuine. Welcome to chaos, Sarah. You start tomorrow. 3 weeks into her new life. Sarah had learned that surviving at Walker Tech required the reflexes of a cat and the hide of a rhinoceros. She'd mastered the coffee machine, decoded Ethan's cryptic scheduling preferences, and could navigate the building's maze of glass corridors without getting lost. What she hadn't mastered was Sophie Chen, Ethan's operations chief. The Nakamura contracts need revision, Sophie said, appearing at Sarah's desk like a perfectly dressed storm cloud. And the Shanghai calls are pushed to tonight. Handle it. Sarah looked at the stack of legal documents, each thicker than a phone. Book. Should I coordinate with legal or figure it out? Sophie said with a dismissive wave. That's what assistants do. As Sophie clicked away in her designer heels, Sarah felt the familiar knot of inadequacy tighten in her chest. 3 weeks ago, her biggest decision was which delivery route to take. Now she was handling million-dollar contracts. Breathing helps, came a voice behind her. Sarah turned to find Ethan leaning against the doorframe. Tie loosened, sleeves rolled. Up. Even disheveled, he looked like he'd stepped off a magazine cover. I'm fine, she lied. You're hyperventilating over legal documents. He moved closer, his presence somehow both calming and electrifying. What's the real problem? Sarah gestured helplessly at her desk. I don't know what half these terms mean. Sophie expects me to handle contracts worth more than I'll make in 10 lifetimes, and I'm terrified I'll mess up something important. Ethan perched on the edge of her desk. Do you know why I hired you instead of someone with an MBA and 5 years of experience? Because you felt sorry for me? Because when you're drowning, you learn to swim fast. His gray eyes held hers. Everyone else here has safety nets. You don't? That makes you hungry, focused. It makes you fight harder. Before Sarah could respond, her phone rang. The caller ID showed a number she didn't recognize, but something about it made her stomach drop. Sarah Bennett speaking. Miss Bennett, this is Detective Morrison. I need to speak with you about Ryan Kellerman. There's been an incident. Blood drained from Sarah's face. Ethan was beside her in an instant, his hands steady on her shoulder. What kind of incident? She managed. He's been arrested for stalking and harassment. 3 other women have come forward with complaints. We'd like you to come in and make a statement. Sarah's hands shook as she hung up. The relief was so intense it made her dizzy. He's gone, she whispered. Really gone this time. Ethan's grip on her shoulder tightened. Good. Now you can stop looking over your shoulder and focus on what's ahead. For the first time in months, Sarah felt like she could breathe fully. The Walker Tech product launch was a week away, and the office hummed with barely controlled chaos. Sarah had found her rhythm in the madness, fielding calls from investors, coordinating with vendors, and somehow managing to anticipate Ethan's needs before he voiced them. She was printing presentation slides when she overheard Sophie on a phone call. No, the temporary girl has to go after the launch, Sophie was saying. Ethan's gotten too attached. It's affecting his judgment. Sarah's stomach dropped. Shh. Known the position was temporary, but hearing it discussed like a problem to be solved stung more than she'd expected. You're upset, Ethan said behind her, making her jump. Just focused on work, she lied, not trusting her voice. He closed the door to his office and gestured for her to sit.
The city sparkled beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows, but Sarah couldn't
appreciate the view with her world tilting sideways. I heard Sophie's call, she admitted. I know my time here is almost up. Ethan was quiet for a long moment. Would you want to stay? I offered. The question caught her off guard. Yes. But Sophie's right, isn't she? I don't really belong here. Sophie's protecting what she thinks is best for the company. Ethan moved to the window, his reflection ghost-like in the glass. But she doesn't know what I know. Which is. He turned to face her, and something in his expression made her breath catch. That day you hid behind me changed everything.
Not just for you.
Sarah's pulse quickened. Ethan and I built this company from nothing, he continued. Worked 18-hour days, sacrificed everything for success. And somewhere along the way, I forgot what it felt like to care about anything other than profit margins and board meetings. He took a step closer. Then you crashed into my life, literally, and reminded me that there are things worth protecting besides stock prices. I'm not worth losing your focus over, Sarah whispered. You're not a distraction, Sarah. You're the reason I remembered why I started fighting in the first place. His hand found hers. The launch is next week. After that, I want to offer you a permanent position. Not as my assistant? Her heart stopped. Then as what? As my partner, as my business, and if you'll have me, in everything else. Sarah stared at him, the weight of his words settling around her like a new skin. You're serious? I've never been more serious about anything in my life. Before she could respond, the fire alarm shrieked through the building. But instead of moving toward the exit, they stood frozen, hands entwined. As if the world outside had ceased to matter. 6 months later, Sarah stood in the same Walker Tech lobby where her life had changed forever. But this time, she wasn't clutching a delivery bag or running from her past. She wore a tailored navy dress and carried a leather portfolio, her reflection confident in the polished marble floors. The launch had been a spectacular success, bringing in the biggest investment round in Walker Tech's history. Sarah's insights about user experience, drawn from her years serving customers in every conceivable situation, had been instrumental in refining the final product. Ready? Ethan asked, joining her near the elevators. He looked impeccable as always, but she could see the nervous energy in the way he adjusted his cufflinks. Ready, she confirmed. They were about to present their partnership proposal to the board. Not just as business partners, but as co-founders of Walker Tech's new consumer division. Sarah would lead customer experience while Ethan handled the technical development. It was ambitious, risky, and exactly the kind of challenge that made Sarah's pulse quicken with excitement rather than fear. The elevator doors opened, and Sophie emerged with a small smile. Their relationship had thawed considerably once Sophie realized Sarah wasn't going anywhere and had no intention of undermining the company's success. The board's ready for you, Sophie said, and Sarah, good luck. As they rose to the boardroom, Sarah thought about the scared woman who had hidden between a stranger's legs in this very building. That woman had been running from everything. This woman was running toward her future. Any regrets? Ethan asked quietly. Sarah looked at him, this man who had seen her at her lowest and chosen to lift her up instead of walk away, who had taught her that survival wasn't enough, that she could thrive. Only one, she said, his eyebrow arched, which is, should have thanked that delivery customer who ordered from the 48th floor. If they hadn't, I never would have met you. Ethan's smile was soft and real. Funny thing about that, I never ordered lunch that day. I was heading down to grab coffee when I saw you run in from the rain. Sarah blinked. Then who does it matter? He took her hand as the elevator chimed their arrival. We're here now. The boardroom doors opened, revealing a table full of executives who would decide their future. Sarah squeezed Ethan's hand once, then let go. She didn't need to hide behind anyone anymore. She was ready to stand on her own. Together. They walked into the room where Sarah Bennett, former delivery driver and survivor, would become Sarah Bennett, co-founder and force to be reckoned with. Asterisk, the end asterisk asterisk, like this video if the story touched your heart. Subscribe for more emotional tales and share with someone who believes in the power of true love, and let us know in the comments. We love connecting with our global community of romance lovers.